Tifu by drugging the bartender and ruining a wedding. My wife and I went to her colleague's wedding. I'm not a huge drinker and I didn't really know anyone, so my plan was to grab some sort of cold refreshing beverage, find somewhere to post up, and nurse it while I got really stoned and did some people watching. Which leads me to my drugs. On the way to the wedding I stopped at a dispensary and picked up a reusable vape pen thing. I'm a pretty traditional smoker. I go to the place and buy an eighth and smoke it in my ancient bowl over the course of the next month or two. I'd never had a pen before. I was just like, I'm going to a wedding and want something that won't make me sleepy or mentally handicapped, and the young woman at the counter handed me the thing. As my wife was driving us over, I tried it out. I also don't smoke very much at any one time, and have a hard time with anything like joints or bongs etc. When I do smoke these things, they hit way too hard and I cough like crazy and hate myself. So I took a very small hit, noticed it hit really hard and thought, well, that's because you think everything hits too hard. Badabbing bada-boom, I'm at the reception standing in line to grab some drinks from the bartender and notice the tip jar. Realizing I don't have any cash, I'm like, dude, do you have Venmo or something? I know, lol, and he's like, ah, don't even worry about it man, it's no big deal, but I'm a service industry vet, so I wanted to find a way to tip him because I know it's gonna be a long night and a lot of people won't tip. So I'm like, alright man, well, if my wife has some cash I'll double back over, but in the meantime, if you party. And I show him the pen. He's like, oh for real? Hell yeah dude. And proceeds to take an enormous puff on this thing. Within seconds he was doubling over and coughing uncontrollably. It was incredibly loud and in under a minute he was down on his hands and knees behind the bar puking in the grass. Still, kind of no harm no foul, until he gets up and puts all of his weight onto a tumbler glass that was sitting on the table he used to help himself up, cutting his hand open, so badly. And then something very interesting happened. Something that had never happened before. I started vomiting at the sight of the blood. So naturally this is pretty disruptive, and the groom, who just so happened to be nearby, comes over to see what's going on and fucking faints the second he sees this guy's hand. Smashing his head on the bar/table on the way down, his face taking the tablecloth and everything on the table down with him. Totally unmitigated disaster. Both of them had to go to the hospital and the bride was understandably super upset and screaming at the caterers, so I decided, well, it's been a good life, and began to march over to explain to her what happened, when out of her mouth comes a series of very specific slurs directed at the owner of the catering company. I didn't get a single word out of my mouth before she said fucking sue me, turned on her heel and told her people to just round their shit up and go. Cue major shitstorm. Everyone is fighting with everyone, and almost all of the guests left. I told my wife what happened on the drive home and she said I should call the catering company and apologize, which I did, and the owner laughed for about 30 seconds on the phone before saying, well, whatever, fuck that bitch. So, yeah. TLDR, don't smoke a lot of weed. Got the bartender way too high, causing a chain reaction of vomiting and fainting that led to a racist outburst ending a wedding. Edit, I actually think it was a wine glass.